Dan with 3D PT. In a previous video, I did a project where I made a 3D printed cookie cutter and used that to make hardtack, which is a historic food. Now, hardtack has been known for centuries, and hardtack is great historic food because it was easy to make. It's just flour, salt, and a little bit of water. And once it's baked twice, it keeps forever. And as long as you keep it in an airtight, dried container, it could definitely last for years, if not centuries. And in fact, there's a couple videos where people have actually eaten 100-year-old hardtack from the Civil War. Now, in this video, I'll cover 4 different ways that you could actually enjoy or at least eat hardtack, and I'll go from there. First up, you can enjoy hardtack as a cracker and top it off with any sort of jam or meat you want. And the one here is actually from when I was in Alaska. There's a modern equivalent of hardtack from Sailor Boy Pilot Bread. And anyone who's ever been to Alaska has seen this. These crackers are huge, thick, and they're pretty much only eaten in Alaska. And it's because they're, just like their descendant, the hardtack, they're portable, very durable and easy to transport, very light. And if you go to any house in Alaska or any bush plane, you'll see a box of these as either on the shelf or as an emergency food. And here, I did a recipe for crab cake, so it's actually some crab patties on a couple of Sailor Boy Pilot Breads. So you could eat either one, either a Sailor Boy version, which is a little bit fluffier, a little bit lighter, definitely a lot more chewable. If you want to eat traditional hardtack, though, pretty much I'll show you how to eat it by itself next. Number 2. Hardtack is actually pretty much just made by taking flour and a little bit of water and mixing it into a thick dough. So you could actually use this to make Play-Doh by itself by just adding some food coloring to it, or you could even add some lemon juice or essential oils to make it smell nice. Here I'm actually doing it as a science demonstration. So one cool thing is that if you go to any store and buy Play-Doh and then stick any sort of electronics into it, it's actually conductive. And so there's a famous science demonstration called squishy circuits, where you could actually plug in batteries, LEDs, motors, and any sort of other basic electronics into the dough and use that to make all sorts of cool, fun animals. And if you want a link to squishy circuits, I'll throw in a card above and also include a link in the description. So another way to eat hardtack, or way it was traditionally eaten, was you would throw it in some sort of liquid to soak it up. And if you have a soup that's a bit thin, the hardtack's here. Definitely a great way to bulk up. You can kind of see the chunks here. So it definitely bulks it up. So if you ever have a soup that's really kind of watery and plain, you could do that. So if the hardtack soaks in, hardtack's supposed to soak in something, and I've done other parts where it's soaked in coffee.
having it soak in something definitely helps, because you notice I wasn't like cracking my jaw or anything. And the longer it soaks, the less kind of chalky it'll taste. And that was the gluten-free ones as well, so I don't know if that makes much of a difference. But yeah, that's how traditionally hardtack was eaten. So another way hardtack was eaten was basically you could take it and soak it in grease. And so this is just some burger grease from burgers I cooked earlier. Just let it soak into the hardtack, and does a really good job. And this would be great on a field thing. Keeps your, you put this there, soak it in grease, let it soak it up, and save you some effort on cleaning up pans. The grease was a little burnt, but if you're in the field and you don't have, and you want to bulk up your whole meal, hardtack is actually a pretty decent way to do it because it soaks up all the grease and all the flavor from what you cooked. And it does soften up as it soaks up. Um, and for number 4, here's the hardtack that's been soaking in coffee. So it's been soaking for about half hour now, just drinking down the coffee. So if you imagine during the Civil War, soldiers pretty much would only get a few things of hardtack a day. And what they would do is they would actually. So imagine this is the Civil War. Now, because the wagon trains and logistics were pretty poor during the Civil War, hardtack was often left outside or not in ideal dry conditions. So flies and maggots would get into the hardtack. And what soldiers would do is they'd actually put the hardtack in the bottom of their cup, let it soak, and as it did that, any maggots or anything inside would actually float up to the top. And there's different accounts. Soldiers would actually either eat the maggots or they would just scoop them out. This is fresh hardtack, and I've actually been keeping it dry in a Tupperware, so I'm not too worried about that. This hardtack is the gluten-free mix, but you can see it's definitely soaked up a lot of the coffee. Let's see if I can. I've actually tried it with a cup of good coffee before. Instant coffee, actually, interestingly, the regular coffee, the hardtack seemed to soak up a lot of the bitter taste from the real coffee. This instant coffee actually kind of did the opposite. It didn't soak up any of the taste of the coffee, and it just kind of tasted like chalk. So if I had to, trying to describe it, it's like if you've ever eaten an uncooked noodle and it's like it's chewy on the top, crunchy in the center. This is like sort of halfway between that, where it's like 3/4 of the way cooked, and you could bite through all of it, but still the center is just a little stiff and uncooked. And again, it's weird this batch or this cup, because again, the coffee taste didn't go into the hardtack this time, and so you have instant coffee, and then you have pretty much just raw, kind of mushy hardtack. And soldiers had to eat this. And so if your choice was starving or, stomaching this, yeah, soldiers could do it. Would they want to? No. And again, pretty much just out of necessity, hardtack was made as a portable food. I may have put too much in. And I guess throughout the day, if you wanted to snack on this, you could put it in your cup, and just as you sip, get a chunk, have a bite, and just kind of do a steady carb thing that way. Don't really recommend that. And going forward, if you're going to make hardtack, actually, pretty much every channel I've seen that ever makes it uses just the cheapest bottom shelf flour they could get, and that flour can have gluten in it. These chunks are actually from a gluten-free version, and it seems like the gluten actually holds it together better. So yes, you could buy whatever organic fancy flour you want, but historically, pretty much it was whatever flour was available and cheap and easy to make with. So wheat, buckwheat, anything like that.
So that's my favorite thing in that movie, Stronger Than Fiction, but it's also, you could use different kind of flours to make hardtack.
Barley flour. So you could eat a gluten. You can make a gluten-free version. Definitely make it thicker, because this version only made the pieces about maybe 1/8 of an inch thick, and so hardtack is pretty much meant to be a thick slice of rock hard flour. Now, you're probably asking, Stan, why'd you decide to eat hardtack and go down this rabbit hole? Well, it kind of started with the idea of just 3D printing a cookie cutter. And I've made cookies with those printed cutters in the past. But rather than do another cookie cutter video, literally another cookie cutter video, I've always been fascinated by history, and growing up, I've been to Civil War reenactments, and I remember at one they had a lady dressed in full regalia at a covered wagon, and she was like, "Hey, kids, come on around and find out what soldiers ate." And of course, kids being hungry and everything, were like, "Okay." So she actually, had hardtack, the big, like 4-inch proper, like soldier's ration, and she was like, "Kids, you're in for a treat. This was brand new. I just made this a couple days ago. And here, we're going to have it with a treat, and we're going to actually have it hardtack with molasses on it." Now, I've never had molasses before that point. Never had hardtack. And so she actually used, I think, an actual hammer to break it up, which was probably my first warning. And then pour on some molasses, and you ever do that before, and it's sticky, sweet stuff, which to a kid is pure crack, but then putting it on top of a chunk of hardtack and trying to chew that down, molasses definitely helped, and I'm thinking some sugar here would have helped in the coffee. Just about anything in the hardtack would help. Pretty much, you could add garlic powder, any sort of flavoring, olive oil, whatever, because hardtack's basically asking for anything, any sort of flavor. And if you want to make it, it's definitely a fun activity. You can do all sorts of different things. You can make Play-Doh, you can make electronic circuits. You bake it rock hard. You can make a survival food. You could go camping with it. Or you could explore how people in history actually made survival or portable camping food that would last them months on the trail. So, would I recommend eating hardtack regularly? Probably not. Just because it's not a very flavorful food. And it's not, I guess it's good for calories. And it, again, is one of the simplest breads ever made. So if you're looking for something to build off of, this would be perfect. Now, if you were a soldier that, had a choice between trying your lucking out and getting some rabbit or something, or getting this, I'd really hope there was some rabbit in the area. So, if you, excuse me. That's the other thing. It does have some dry bits that might get stuck in your throat. If you like what you see, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll have a subscriber challenge. Make it if we could get to 500 subscribers. I'll make some different versions of this and test those out.